Hey y'all, thank you for joining me. Today I would like to discuss some things in a little experiment that I have been undergoing for like a month. So, about a month ago, I decided to stop taking estrogen just for a little, right? I just wanted to test it out because truthfully, I have been a little bit, I don't want to say distraught at times, but I have been negatively mentally impacted through my inability to know if taking estrogen and transitioning was actually something that I wanted. And I know that might sound like, oh, what do you mean? Like, how is that the case? But like, I don't know the true reason that I transitioned. Some would say that it's just the way my brain was born. Others would say it's the hormones that I was exposed to like early in my life, in my body. Others would say that I did it for social reasons, social advantations, right? And maybe the real answer is some mix of all of these things. But regardless, I wanted to make sure that I actually wanted this, I guess. Because, well, okay, I'll just be really honest, I guess. I think, I think I really want an orchiectomy. And I have been really scared of the idea of getting an orchiectomy. And I, I do, I, um, I am scared of making like permanent changes to my body, and I wanted to ensure that I actually didn't like testosterone. I didn't like the way it feels. I didn't like anything about it. Well, I don't. It's not even about like not liking anything about it. It's more about like choosing what I want to run on. Right? I can run on testosterone, or I can run on estrogen, or I can run on some mix in between. Plus, progesterone, and there's a bunch of things that you could take. There's anti-androgens, etc. But all this is to say, I did an experiment because I wanted to know how I actually feel about being on testosterone and being on the things in my body. I started transitioning at a young age. I started transitioning at a time when I was going through a lot of emotionally heavy things, right? So I wasn't sure if I was transitioning out of a way to escape that, or if I was transitioning out of a genuine desire to be trans. Because again, like even growing up, even being socialized as a male, I didn't really like being socialized as a male. But is it because I don't like how men are treated? Is it because I didn't like being treated as a man? Or is it because I didn't want to be a man, right? Anyways, all that's to say, I did an experiment for the past month or so, and based on certain body functions and body productions, which we'll get into here later a little bit, I will talk more about. I think my body has restarted my T production, and the effects that I feel, while not as serious as some other fan favorites, like I didn't take a mega T dose like Isaac Uncooked did. That was not my experiment. My experiment was simply going off of estrogen and going off of my anti-androgen and going off of my progesterone, right? I want to talk about some of the changes and the mental things and the physical things that I have noticed after resuming on T for 1 month. Well, let's say, just a couple weeks because I'm sure in my body, okay, we'll just talk about it. At some point, probably a weekend, I started having pain in my genitals, specifically my left testicle, which is not something that I've never experienced before. Actually, I when I was really young, I used to get pain in one of my testicles, and it would really hurt. It really freaking hurt.
Mother trucker, dude, that hurt like a butt cheek on a stick.
Watch your profanity.
And I remember there were multiple times where I would complain to my dad about it, and I'd be like, Dad, my testicles really hurt right now. Like, I think I have, like, testicular torsion or something. And, like, I didn't, presumably. But that is what I thought at various points. And that pain, that sensation, actually came back when I was doing this little experiment. But, interestingly enough, that pain was only here during that, like, about a weekend for a couple days. And I have come to the headcanon, which may or may not be correct, that the reason I was experiencing that pain was because it was the restarting of like the spermatozoa production, the restarting of my gonads, essentially. It makes me wonder as well, right? I while this has been an experiment to confirm my transness in my head, not really my transness, but my decision to take feminizing hormones, it also has kind of opened my eyes a little bit, I guess. And it made me wonder if part of my gender dysphoria came from this pain of my gonads being unable to function the way that they were supposed to. And then, on that same token, I almost wonder if going on feminizing hormone therapy, going on estrogen, going on progesterone, dutasteride, and I've actually been on a couple different anti-androgens. So I wonder if any of these things could have biologically impacted my testicles. Because the other thing is, I was actually getting the same pain in my gonads, and specifically my left gonad, which, okay, sorry not to get off topic again, but there's like these like enlarged vessels, or they're like engorged vessels on that are very common. They're in like 20% of amab people, and they're not like super worrisome, but I one of my headcanons is that is like one of the things that caused it. I don't really think that's the case, given the fact that the pain has subsided for me at this point, roughly 3 weeks later after having experienced it again. And even then, it was only like on and off. It wasn't like a 24/7 pain, right? But it was something that made me think of my younger years, where I actually got that pain even before my transition. I got it before my like feminizing therapy, right? I was still getting that testicle pain. And I even remember getting that testicle pain with my, like, right before. Like, I'm not saying, like, oh, I went through puberty and it fixed itself. Like, it started when I was in middle school, probably. And it was there on and off. It was just something that I experienced. It was my reality until I transitioned. And then it stopped, right? Like, the hormone therapy presumably shut down my gonad function. I didn't feel that pain anymore. I didn't feel bad anymore. And I liked that. I like that a lot. Sorry, I was saying that I'm not sure if the estrogen or some of the other hormones or medicines that I took could have had an impact on that, right? Like, maybe it wasn't the engorged vessel thing, like the like enlarged vein or whatever. Maybe instead it was like a biological issue. My body wasn't producing something. It wasn't creating the thing needed in order to finish the development of my testicles, right? Because here's actually another interesting thing about my hormone results is when I first started estrogen, I started with this service called Plume. I got my trans doctor, and I got put on, I believe, 4 milligrams of estrogen. And my first lab results test, I'm pretty sure I had really low testosterone. And I remember thinking that it was weird to have that, because 4 milligrams should not suppress your testosterone to that level, right? And I didn't, this was a bad thing. I should have, for science sake, for entertainment sake, for my own knowledge sake. I should have gotten hormone tested before I started hormones. I should have gotten blood tested for that, and I didn't. So I don't know what I ranked before, but I know that 3 months in, on 4 milligrams of estrogen, which won't really impact your testosterone production, my T was low, my estrogen was good, and that was fine, right? 3 more months later, my T is high. My T's at like 600 or 700, right? Like, my body really kicked in and started producing testosterone in a way that it wasn't before. And I had also gone up to 6 or 8 milligrams. I think it was 6 at that point, and then I went up to 8 after I got those results. But all I'm saying is that and again, I don't know if this is true. I don't know if this is even based in any kind of fact.
Is this what's picking it up? Yeah, it is. Okay.
So I don't know if this headcanon is correct, but I actually have a theory that the feminizing hormones and the feminizing therapy that I was on may have changed my biological function in a way that allowed me to actually finish developing, if that makes sense. And I hate to say it like that, but I genuinely think that there's a chance that my body didn't finished developing, right? I never was able to put on like big muscle. That wasn't something that I was able to do. I definitely was horny. I relate to a lot of the sexual aspects in terms of how I felt before with how I felt recently, which we'll get to later. We'll talk about that later. But I think that there might be some kind of mechanism, some kind of like biological path, right? That was finished or further developed through my feminizing hormone therapy. And I just think that's interesting. I think that's interesting. And I think that in a way, again, and this is also the thing, right? Because I don't know if it is socialization or if I don't know if it is actual medical, right? But I almost feel like I could be happy detransitioning. But not re-transitioning rather, right? Like I could be happy resuming life as a more effeminate man or as a non-binary person, like without needing to re-identify into feminine. I think, like in some kind of world, right? But I think a lot of that is due to all the things that I've learned over this time, right? Like I've really come to truly accept myself as me, right? Rather than as my need to be a woman, right? Because part of the reason why I do think I felt so compelled to start estrogen was because I just didn't feel good in my body. As I mentioned, I didn't like being a man. I didn't like being treated like a man. I wanted to do anything that could separate me from manhood, right? And like, at this point, I have done that, right? Like, of course, there's people on the internet, well, there's people everywhere that like to talk shit, right? And they're gonna talk shit, and they're gonna call me a man. They're gonna call me, oh, you'll always be a man, right? But like, the life that I've built for myself doesn't really reflect that, if that makes sense, right? Like, my family still thinks I'm a little weird, but they treat me as a woman, at least to my face. I would imagine some of them are misgendering me behind my back, but out of sight, out of mind, right? When I was a man, I guarantee a lot of them were also talking shit about me, just for different reasons. But most of them aren't. Most of them are respectful. Most of them never slip up. Like, that's what I mean. There's a couple that slip up a lot, which makes me think that they're not using it when I'm not around. But also, like, I have so many beautiful relationships in my life that have been developed through my transition, that have been, like, explored through my transition, that I don't want to say gotten to experience because of my transition. But the truth is, like, if I had never transitioned, I would never have the same kind of relationships that I have now. I would never be in this place where I'm a YouTube content creator, like talking to you, right? Most of my relationships that I'm talking about are in person. It's friends that I've met, it's people that I have become romantically or intimately like connected with. And I've also learned so much about intimacy and like what it means to actually be in community and in connection with other people, which I didn't know before, genuinely. And I feel like that sounds so like pathetic to say out loud, right? But I had an idea of what I had an idea of what I thought social community was like before. But I really hated the version of community and sociality that I knew. And that's part of what led me to transition, right? And through my transition, I've learned so much more about sociality through how I want to be interacted with, how I want to interact with other people. I've learned how to truly love. Whereas before my transition, I only knew how to. This feels so bad to say, and I really hate to say it, but I think it's the truth, and it really disgusts me to say this, but I think for honesty's sake, it needs to be said, I had only learned how to control and how to protect, I guess, but that's the other, like, that's the flip coin of protecting, right? You protect and you provide, but you also get control, right? And, like, I learned how to protect and provide and control. I didn't learn how to love. I didn't learn how to be loved. Because as a man, as somebody growing as a man, I wasn't loved. I well, I don't want to say that. I don't want to say I wasn't loved. Like, I was loved, but I was loved in a way that was to make me better at being a provider and a protector, right? Like, I was taught how to be a man. I wasn't taught how to be a good person, if that makes any sense. And I really don't know how else to elaborate on that. But I don't think that does good things to kids or their brains. Which is part of the reason why I don't know if I transition for social reasons or for biological reasons. But regardless, I think that the biological changes that I've experienced on feminizing hormone therapy, on HRT, on pruning, whatever you want to call it, has been so beneficial to my life in so many capacities. Okay, this might be a hot take. I think I was sexier before, but I think I'm more happy with my appearance and my visual self. I'm more happy with the person that I see in the mirror now. I'm so much happier with the person that I look at when I go into that bathroom right behind me, right? I go into that bathroom, I look in the mirror. I can actually bear to look at myself now. I couldn't look at myself before. Or I did. I would stare in the mirror, right? Trying to like find myself. And like I just never could see it, right? Like, then this is before my transition, like all throughout my teenage years. I would just stare in the mirror and I would like try and find myself in my eyes, if that makes sense. I would try and see myself, right? But like, the only part of myself that I ever truly connected with was my eyes, was like my pupils, right? I I was attracted to myself in like a autoandrophilic way, right? Like I thought I was sexy. I knew how to be sexy as a guy. I wanted to be a sexy guy, right? And like I was able to do these things that like led me to sexualize myself. And that's the other thing. Is like I really over sexualized myself as a male because of part of the way that I learned men and males were supposed to interact in society. And I think this is even reflected a little bit in my early transition. In my early transition, if you've seen Envy Desire, all I'm going to say is I was kind of Ethan adjacent. Um, I didn't know what it meant to be feminine. I didn't know what it meant to be me. I didn't know what it meant to balance all of these different ideas and identities and life experiences, which a lot of them I hadn't had yet, right? I never lived as a woman. I didn't know what it was like to live as a woman. I just knew what I thought it was like to be a woman, and I knew what I thought I wanted, which was to be this version of myself that was a woman. Um, and I think I would still resonate with that if I hadn't undone a lot of the brain worms that I learned growing up and like socializing as a male or whatever. I think that I didn't have a lot of good role models to teach me about socialization. And I think they all tried in their own best way, right? And I don't even want to say that they just did a really bad job. Because if I look at them and who their role models were, genuinely I almost feel fortunate, right? Like even though I really don't like the socialization that I got, and I find so many issues with so much of it, when I turn around and I realize that one, I have access to the internet, I have the ability to outlearn all of this stuff, right? And a lot of them didn't, right? A lot of them knew they wanted to be better, and I'm talking about like my role models, the people that raised me, etc. A lot of them knew they wanted to be better than their parents, and they were better than their parents, and that's why I almost say like I like empathize, and I almost don't even like. For a long time, I really hated the people that raised me and the people that were around me in my youth. Um, but as I go through my transition, as I really come to find myself, I realize that I can't hate them because ultimately they did a better job than their parents did. And like through that, I know that they really tried their best, and they really did care about me, and they really did, like, make an effort to not be as awful. That doesn't mean they did a good job, right? And, like, I'm not saying they did a good job, but I am saying that, like, I don't blame them for me ending up the way that I did as much as I used to. But anyways, I'm rambling. I don't even know how I got here, but all this is to say that, like, I transitioned. I made it really far, and I've had a couple short periods where I went off hormones, and then I just went back on them. Like, I was just testing it out. I was testing the waters. That was like a while ago. That was like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. It's been a while, but this time I really wanted to know. Right, Isaac was on his experiment. I figured, I already haven't taken it in like a week. Let me just push it, right? Let me just keep going. Let me go hard. And I take pills. So as I've mentioned many times, I decide cognizantly every day whether or not I want to take them. And for this past month, I just haven't. I haven't taken them. I decided I didn't want to. And I'm glad that I did that because of the things that it's helped me learn. Anyways, I'm supposed to be talking about the changes of testosterone, but I guess I'm just reflecting on a lot of the things that this experience has taught me. I think that while I could have theoretically, if I focused on changing my socialization, which I almost would say is impossible if I had never taken HRT, if I had never engaged myself with the communities that I did, if I never did the undercover work, if I never dug under the surface, then I never would know the things that I know about myself now. And I never would have learned the things, and I never would have been able to walk back all of the self-hatred and all the self-pain that I held inside, right? So I think that while I could, in theory, have not done this in another lifetime, I think this was the fastest path to get me the outcome and the help that I needed, right? I think I could have lived a lifetime and made it to my 50s, 60s, 70s, and been one of those men who's incredibly sage with wisdom of a life full of hate and self-hatred, and like the experiences and impulsiveness and pain that comes with that socialization and that lived reality, right? I could have made it to be an old man, but I didn't want to make it to be an old man for that. I am so grateful for my younger self going through estrogen therapy and teaching me the things that I have learned and bringing me the peace that I think it has helped me find. Which again, I don't know if that's biological through me needing to be on estrogen. I don't know if that's biological through me needing to finish the pathways that finish my puberty, or not finish my puberty, but like finish my body development. And I don't know if that was social, right? Again, I don't know, truthfully. But what I do know is that there are some things in the past month that I have been experiencing that I dislike. I dislike my quickness. And I feel like when I say that, people are going to misunderstand what I mean. So let me elaborate. I have felt like I'm reacting so quickly to people. I'm yelling a lot more, and not even in like an angry, aggressive way, just like in a defensive way. I find myself getting heated. I find myself getting triggered, for lack of a better word. I find myself being on edge and willing to like engage in things that I wouldn't have on estrogen. For example, like arguing with people on Discord, right? Like that's something I did. That's something I do on estrogen, but that's not the way that I argue with people is very different on estrogen versus on testosterone. Because on estrogen, I'm so patient. I like to take, I don't know what kind of like viewpoint I like to take, but I like to take this like, been there, done that, right? Like I feel you, right? Like I get you, but I'm like mommy vibes, right? I don't know, because I'm patient. I'm very patient. I'm very like empathetic. I'm very caring. And now on testosterone, I'm still empathetic. I'm still caring. But the way that I express it is so much more aggressive. Like, I just want to like, I don't want to say I want to beat it into their heads. I don't want to beat these ideas into their heads. But I feel so much more passionate about making my points known, and I feel so much more energetic in my points, if that makes sense, right? Like Isaac mentioned this in Isaac's estrogen versus testosterone video, they mentioned that on estrogen, there's like a general sense of malaise is what they called it, which I don't really know what that word means, but from my assumptions and the way that I am interpreting it in context, it's like a sense of haziness or like laziness or like peace and tranquility, right? I'm not sure if it's the estrogen that brings the peace or if it's the testosterone that brings the impulsiveness, that brings the instinctualness, that brings the like the bite, if that makes sense, right? Like estrogen, I want to like pet you, right? I want to like care for you. I want to like take care of you, right? On testosterone, I want to bite and like not again, not bad, not in a bad way, but in the same way that like silverback gorillas, when the kids are being a little bit obnoxious, right? Mama might let that go on for a lot longer. Daddy's gonna put them in their place, right? Sorry for that audio quality. I just wanted to clarify that I don't mean that the dads are hateful. It's more so that, like, just look at this video. This is just an example of what I'm talking about. Like, the mom is very, like, casual. She's like, ah. That dad chases it down, right? And he's like, you need to know what I'm saying. And I just want to clarify, gorilla fathers are actually one of the best fathers in the animal kingdom. So I don't want you to think I'm saying that, like, it's just pure aggression, but it's like lesson teaching. Same as the mom, just in a different way. And I almost think that historically, I would have thought that was a bad thing, that that's the way it works. And I don't think that's the way it works for everybody, because everybody's so different. There's so much versatility in people, right? But I think that for me, I would have seen that as kind of a bad thing. But now I almost want to say I understand it from a more personal view, right? Like I don't think it's all socialization, genuinely. I think a lot of it is probably socialization, but I think a lot of it is the dominant hormones in your body and the way that makes your brain act, the way that makes your body act, the way that like actually plays out in the fact that you're a biological system of hundreds, if not thousands, if not tens of thousands, if not more, moving parts. Like you have so many pipelines, so many like streams of things in your body. Like even just eating. You eat things and there's so many things that are impacting that. Your saliva is breaking it down and you're getting nutrients there. Your esophagus, I don't think your esophagus. Your stomach is breaking things down and then you're getting it there. Like that like softens everything up and then it goes through your intestines and then your intestines eat that shit up. But like along with this is the fact that you're feeding various bacteria colonies in your body. You're feeding various like living organisms inside of yourself. You're not one thing. You're a system of literally countless things. And like the hormones you're on do play a big impact. I don't know what else to say. Like, I just genuinely feel that way. But I think that for me personally, I don't like being that person. I don't like engaging in that way of the more aggressive, instinctual, of bitey. Well, I like biting with my teeth. I don't like biting like in behavior, if that makes sense. And I don't think that's who I want to be. I don't like that idea of masculinity, for one. And again, I don't think it necessarily is socialization or hormones. I think it's probably a mix. I think it's somewhere in between. But I think that my temperamentality pushes me to be more likely to interact in that way when I'm on testosterone, when I'm sexually aggressive, right? For lack of a better term. Because that's the other thing. Testosterone has had me so... You know what I mean? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, I'm talking multiple times a day. And no, I'm not talking multiple times a day. I'm talking, like, I gotta take action on it multiple times a day. And, like, not every day. Some days it's just once, right? But some days it's multiple times. I literally feel like, I feel like I did in my first puberty. Genuinely. I feel like I am I'm waking up every day with like not functional issues. I'm waking up every day with wardrobe issues because I'm still wearing all my same clothes, right? I'm still like living my life. I didn't like re-buy men's clothes. I don't care that much. And I've been doing this experiment with the not the assumption, but the idea that I probably will like continue my transition after. But I want to know. I want to know for sure. And like, whew, let's just say that's difficult. That is a difficult problem to deal with, and it's low key. It's honestly low key kind of fun. It's low key kind of fun. You know, there's that like honey that women taste. It's like I'm taking that honey every day, multiple times a day, and except it's just here. But and like it's fun sometimes, but it's fucking annoying other times. Like I don't want to be in that state of mind all the time. I don't want to like the littlest things happen, and this is also like that's the thing, good or bad, little things happen. I feel emotionally impacted. My body starts to like get going, and like not again. I'm not even talking about horniness. I don't know if I'm allowed to say these words on YouTube, but I'm not even talking about like the compulsions to like. I'm not even talking about thinking inappropriate thoughts, right? I'm talking about little things like I bump into a wall or something, and then like it's just the vibes. It's just the vibes. I'm just on edge. I'm ready. I'm ready. Uh, or like I don't know. I'm trying to think of other examples of like little things. Like there's been times where I'm like I want to go to sleep, but like ooh, I need to sleep before I need to sleep. I need to, or like times I'm like eating, and then it's like ooh, like it's time, and like I don't know. On the one hand, again, it's low key kind of fun. I kind of have been enjoying it to an extent, right? Like it's I'm not an anti-sexual being. I'm pro sex, you know, I do what I do for work and I don't do it out of satisfaction, right? So like I think that's a misconception that some people might have. They might either think that I am obsessed with it because of my work or I'm not obsessed with it because of my work, right? But ultimately, I enjoy very different dynamics. I enjoy multiple dynamics, right? I enjoy multiple mindsets, and I can separate my work identity with my non-work identity, right? Like I have a personal sex life and I have a professional sex life, right? Like these are just things. These are just the realities of my situation, and I think this past month on testosterone has been extremely fun for my personal sex life, even just by myself, like my auto sex life, right? It's been enjoyable, but this isn't what I want to do. I feel a lot less productive. I feel a lot less motivated. Well, that's a lie. That's a lie. I feel a lot more driven. I genuinely do feel driven. I feel driven. That's what I got. And I do feel driven, but I don't think I feel driven for I think I feel more driven for the short term, whereas before on estrogen, I was really focusing on the long term. Like 1, 2, 3 years out. But on testosterone, or like resuming my natural function, I'm really focused on now. I'm really focused on like things like I mentioned. I'm focused on going. I'm focused on doing. I'm focused on like I don't know. I don't feel as compelled to work on YouTube stuff. I don't feel as compelled to work on productive stuff. I'm still doing a lot of creative stuff for sure, but like I don't feel like I'm I don't know how to phrase this. I feel like there's a reason men and women likely work so well together at times, and I almost want to say that it might be because one of them is able to focus longer term, and one of them is really focused on the immediate. And I don't know. Again, I don't. I'm just shit talking. I've been talking for almost 40 minutes. So like, don't quote me on anything. Don't hold me in stone. Or you can quote me. You know, like make a response. I'll talk to you. I want to have a digital conversation with you. But like, I think that my ultimate world, my ultimate reality, my ultimate lived experience is not one where I've been thinking the way I have, where I've been feeling the way I have, where I've been engaging the way I have. And again, that's not to say I'm bad. Oh, that's the other thing. I smell bad. And like, I don't think other people would say that, because people around me have never said that. Well, when I was on estrogen, people would say I smell good. But in the past month or so, people haven't said I smell bad, but they haven't been saying I smell good. So like, they might notice. They might notice. I personally feel like testosterone makes me smell like pork. I feel like I literally smell like a pig and like beans. I smell like freaking hickory bacon baked beans, except without the hickory, just the beans and the pork, mainly pork. So like, instead of that, imagine like, I don't know, pork chops with freaking beans on the side. That's what I smell like. That's what I smell like. And I don't know. It might just be my nose making me think that. It might just be like a thing. Because again, nobody else is telling me that I smell like pork and beans. That's just what I say. And when I said that to Isaac, because Isaac was also high T and at the same time. So we had conversations about this. Isaac said that they related in that. They also smelled like pork and beans. Or just pork. I don't know if we said the beans part. But like, they related in that. And they also related in a lot of the other things I'm saying here. But I think all I'm trying to say here is that like, while I didn't hate the experience of being testosteronated again. Oh, I forgot to mention all the other sex stuff. My fluids are back. After 1 week of pain, remember I mentioned that? I mentioned the gonadal pain. After 1 week, it kind of simmered down, it went away. And then after that, I started the consistency of various fluids is different. It is, let's just say it's back, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, can you just infer what I'm saying here? And I think that while, okay, I have closing thoughts, because we've been talking for 40 minutes. I am going to make a follow-up to this after I've been on estrogen again for a little bit, because I have, that's part of the reason why I'm recording this, is I have made the decision to resume estrogen today. I'm after this video, I haven't taken it yet, because I'm taking this video, I'm taking pictures for my transition journal, because I take just, body pictures sometimes to record my progress, and I do it from like 360, all kinds of angles. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna take my pictures, and I want to go back on estrogen, because even though I don't think I hate all of I don't think I hate all of the effects of testosterone, but there's a substantial portion of things that I mentioned that like, it's like simultaneous. On the one hand, I feel more confident, right? I feel way more confident. I feel way more driven. On the other hand, I don't want to feel that way necessarily. I enjoy being able to be intellectual in my life decisions. I enjoy being intentional. I enjoy thinking what I'm going to be doing rather than acting so impulsively like I feel like I do on testosterone. And like, I genuinely don't want to live a life of impulse. I really actually enjoy the way that my brain and body and thoughts work on estrogen. So I want to resume. And there have been negative effects. And the other thing is that like, I feel like part of the reason why I'm even okay doing this, right, is because like, and this is something that Isaac actually said to me that makes me really think about this. And that's like, I think part of the reason why I am okay with being on testosterone right now is because I still feel like I look feminine, right? But like, just recently, like yesterday or the day before, I noticed my arms are getting bigger, right? Like muscle, right? Like I got a little bit of muscle coming back. I got a little muscle coming back. Not a lot of muscle, right? I'm not built, but like, I notice my arms, they feel a little thicker than they were, right? I feel like I'm just a little, just a little bit, right? And Isaac has said that they felt good detransitioning until they became masculine again. And I think I kind of feared that as well in myself. So this whole time, I'm saying I don't know if it's social, I don't know if it's biological, and I don't. But I think that if I were to actually detransition in the long term, I might end up in a situation where I don't feel good. I don't like how I look. I don't think I look good. Because again, I was autoandrophilic. I thought I was more I was like horny at the idea of me being a guy or something. But I think I'm more attractive now. I I like how I look more. I simply like myself more. I feel better about myself now. And I don't want that to change. I don't want to go off of estrogen for that. Or I don't want to go off of estrogen and cause that to happen, in addition to all the mental stuff that I mentioned. Yeah, I feel like I'm kind of low key talking in circles here, but TLDR, testosterone has some benefits, and I have felt like in some perspectives, I do see a lot of the things that I mentioned even as benefits. Feeling more driven, instinctual, able to deal with stuff in my day to day, less emotional. I feel a lot more stoic. I feel a lot more stoic. I still cry from time to time, but I'm not crying nearly as much as I was on estrogen. I feel removed from a lot of my aspects of emotionality, and I don't really like that. I think that could be a benefit at times. I think that could be positive. I think that could be beneficial from times, right? But why would I want to feel generally negative and also have my emotionality muted? So I feel negative, but I'm not able to articulate it. I feel negative, but I'm not able to actually formulate why it is. I'm just gonna get snappy. I'm just gonna get hostile. I don't know. I really think that estrogen will be better for me. And of course, I am gonna make a follow up again in about a month, maybe a couple weeks, maybe a little longer than that. I do need to resuppress the testosterone, but I don't think it'll be that hard. I'm just gonna take some dutasteride, which will block my DHT conversion, uh, which will increase aromatase, which will be fine. And then I'm gonna bump up my estrogen, so organically, I'm gonna be producing more estrogen, endogenously, and then I'm also gonna be taking it exogenously. So I think I'll be fine in a couple weeks to a month or something, and I'll be able to make another follow up video again talking about my changes and my experiences in comparison to this month experiment, which is part of the other reason I did this, right? I wanted to be able to give a true opinion about it, because I was on testosterone before, I was on estrogen then, and then I'm on testosterone again, and now we're going back to estrogen, right? I think that while there are some benefits, I just keep saying this, but I think that while there are some benefits for some people, and some people might feel better in this kind of headspace or mentality or existence, I think the vast majority of people don't even realize. I don't think the vast majority of people even realize. I don't think they realize what else is out there. I don't think they realize that, I don't think most people realize the extent to which they're controlled by their genetic systems, is the way that I want to phrase this. And when I say genetic systems, I'm referring to the fact that your body and your genetics. Okay, so you have your base chromosomes, right? You have your base chromosomes. Eventually, they are pushed. Oh no. So even in the womb, you're interacting with various hormones, which depending on your genetics, you'll play out differently. And so when I say your genetic structure, I'm referring to your chromosomal base, right? But when I refer to your genetic system, I'm referring to the way that your genetic base actually plays out. in reality, right? Like, I want you to imagine like a pinball, not pinball machine. Well, maybe pinball machine, right? Like, the way your genetics play out is like that pinball machine where you pull it, it's popping through, it goes down a certain path, right? Now imagine you can take out certain pegs and you can put other certain pegs in, and now your genetic system is going to play out differently, right? Your genes are the same, your ball is still like doing its thing, but like you're still in the pinball machine. But the actual way and like interactions that you're having with that pinball are different, right? When you're on testosterone, your body acts a certain way. And like, this is what I mentioned. Like, maybe my body never developed because I didn't have the other hormones that I needed. Maybe I didn't have the other like genetic system functions to like push me into this level of development. Most people don't realize the extent to which they're different, right? And I think this is why a lot of people might get into things like nootropics, right? Nootropics meaning like medicines that are meant to enhance you, right? Like some people do like lion's mane's mushrooms, some people do like actual chemicals, but they often come with effects on your genetic systems, right? They can improve brain function because of XYZ reason. They can improve digestion for XYZ reason. There's a lot of things that like your genetic systems do that interact with the environment around you. And I think that a lot of people, especially people that really hate trans people, just don't understand what it actually like. I don't know. There's a real lived difference in being estrogen dominant versus being testosterone dominant, and I think that so many people don't realize that, and they think that like we're doing this just for fun instead of the fact that like we just want to feel better with our genetic systems, and we want our genetic systems to play out better. And the most common argument is this like genetic structure argument, like, oh, you're XY, you'll always be XY. Y'all don't realize this, I guess, but all data that you need is on the X chromosome. Like, if genetics are like a video game, the Y chromosome is like a cosmetic mod, right? Like, it changes a little bit of the function, but really it's just changing it in appearance, right? Like, you still have all the underlying base game code, right? Like, you're generally fine, right? Like, generally, like, you're able to you still have all the genetics that could be applicable to take estrogen and like get effects out of it. And even if you're XX, you can take testosterone and get effects out of it. And I think that's really what a lot of people don't understand is they say you can't change your genetics and you can't change your genetic structure, but you can and you do change your genetic systems all the time. The specific food you eat changes your genetic system. The specific medicines you take changes your genetic system, right? Like this system of this, you're an organism, but you're a system. You're a systemic organism, right? Like you are full of things that interact with each other that play out based on what you're receiving from the environment. Your genetic structure won't save you if you don't eat any food and you don't drink any water. Your genetic system is going to die. Your genetic structure doesn't give a fuck. Like, I don't know if I'm making any sense here, but I think all I'm saying is that I think I like the way my genetic system plays out when I'm estrogen dominant, when I'm doing the things that I do when I'm estrogen dominant. I just genuinely like the way my genetic system is more than the way that it is on testosterone. But I'm not saying it's all negative, right? Like I'm not trying to demonize one and like pedestalize the other. And I think that really this is part of the reason why I recommend exploration so much is that like I think you should be exploring things to figure out what you like with your genetic system the most, rather than being a massive hater and trying to discount certain ways that your system could play out because of societal fear and like societal coping or whatever, right? I don't know. That's all I'm saying. One other thing that I think I noticed on testosterone. So this is also kind of tied into like uh body development, but testosterone can actually make your breasts develop more. It can actually change the way a lot of your body's developing, right? So like I think part of my periods of best breast growth have been these periods where I've stopped taking estrogen for a short period of time. I get some more T in my system. It flares up a little, right? And then I'm T dominant because estrogen is actually more powerful than testosterone is. Fun fact. But after I get T dominant, my boobs look good. My boobs look like boobs, right? And like I am, and that's part of the reason I'm going to take the pictures because I think some changes happen, but I think more changes will happen when I go back on estrogen. Because every time I go back on estrogen, them bitches just get bigger. Oh! Anyways, I'm vibing, but I love you. I'll talk to you later, and goodbye.